Michael, you are muted.
That is usually the way, right? If only I love pantomime, right? So hi and welcome to our evening presentation here in Finland. And we will actually continue with our work. Our work will take us from 5 o'clock to about 6:45. And then after that, we will have the Sacred Pentagram for Cancer program number 1, which will be a broadcast on the usual YouTube link, which all of you, should have by this time. Maybe it can be put in the chat box, or if you've received the list of programs for this week, I think you can go there directly from that list. Is that so, Michael? That they can go there from the list of those links?
They can go there from the list of links, yes.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so I just want to welcome those of you who are here, and so Michael and I are working on just keeping the boat steady. And welcome to Tuya, who's also a co-host, and then and Veronica, hi, and Karsten, and Catherine Pyer, David Allen, and whose ever Galaxy A5 may be, welcome, and Heike, hi, and Ishtar, hi, and Jesse and Joe, welcome, and Joan, and Juhi, and Leslie Van, and Leon, welcome, and Lori, welcome to you, and Lorraine, and Mariana, and Mario, welcome, and Risto, and Tia, welcome, Zenaidi, welcome. So we had begun our work. Let's see how I can do this. We had looked at fire by friction because we're beginning the section on the internal fires, whether we're dealing with the latent fire, which is more connected with the dense physical vehicle of the human being, or the radiatory fire, which is connected with the ethers. And they are both of them internal fires. So fire by friction, or internal vitalizing fire, it's called. We talked about that. These fires animate and vitalize the objective solar system. How far does the solar system really go? There is a good reason to believe that beyond the cosmic physical plane, we don't call it a solar system anymore. Those happen to be the higher vehicles of the major players in a solar system. But on the cosmic physical plane, in the cosmic ethers and the cosmic dense physical levels, the solar system appears. So fire by friction and the internal vitalizing fire, they are the sum total of logoic kundalini. When in full systemic activity, and it's not yet, but our particular planet, being a first-ray monad planet, is the ruler of the base of the spine, particularly of our solar logos. And so it has a lot to do with logoic kundalini and eventually with the higher initiations of our solar logos. We never know how far we can go in any one incarnation. there are always possibilities that we can venture into the higher initiations. And it's the same with a solar logos. It's almost a certainty that our solar logos will take a fourth cosmic initiation through this particular second major solar system. But it is only a possibility, maybe a probability, I don't know, but certainly a possibility that our solar logos will take his fifth cosmic initiation through this particular solar system. So, that's still, these time scales are so huge, we're halfway through the duration of our solar system. Now, that's a matter of trillions of years. If a solar system lasts, according to the Brahmanic chronology, 311 trillion, 40 billion years, we still have 150 trillion years to go, roughly, to the conclusion of our particular solar system. Whatever science may say, and of course what it tends to say has to do with the dense physical level and maybe increasingly with some of the lower ethers. So the very short time that science predicts a universe will last is out of all comparison with what the Brahmanic chronology will tell us. Those are very, very long periods. And of course, our planet is said not to be one of those that lasts the entirety of the solar system, but maybe, who's to say, maybe it began late and lasts to the end, or maybe it began with everything else and only lasts partway through. I think it has to last pretty near the end because it has a very important base of the spine function in helping our solar logos to take its fifth cosmic initiation. So anyway, we're dealing with quite physical fires here. The etheric plane is physical. It's a subtle form of physicality, but it is physical. So these internal vitalizing fires, they pretty much have to do with the etheric, physical, systemic planes, sometimes called solar planes. And I think, what I should do here, if I can, I should have prepared this, but it has to do with the diagrams, and I want to get two sets of diagrams up here, both the old set and the set that Tuya made with more accurate colors. So let's see here if I can do that. I'm pretty close. I'm closing in on it. There we go. All right. And there we go. Okay. So please move the window. Okay, there's lots of requirements here. So this is let's call this a new share. And you should see, right now the largest map that we have. And basically we're, for a long, long time, and even the Christ now is focused on the cosmic physical plane, and so will we be. everything spiritual for us is located on the ethers, the cosmic ethers. But when the Christ and the Buddha look ahead to what is spiritual for them, it's a different story. They look ahead to the cosmic mental plane, the Buddha, and the cosmic astral plane, the Christ. We don't know what of the great paths the Buddha will take. He was to have gone to Sirius, but no longer. And we do know that the path that the Christ will take, even though his initiation was cosmic astral, will take him to the cosmic mental plane on the ray path, where he will become an embodied ray of love, maybe love wisdom, and then make eventually his way to Sirius. So, the interpretation of this particular chart is extremely important to get a local cosmological overview. I don't think it's even as big as a galaxy. I doubt it. But still, it's very expansive when it comes to our destiny. Now, going back here to fire by friction. Okay. So our next subject is solar fire, or cosmic mental fire. Now, this is very interesting because, looking at the map that we've got, if I can do that, the solar fire, as far as we are concerned in a practical way, is emanating from the cosmic mental plane, which is not, very articulated, not very spelled out, because DK has just left it blank. If basically he's leaving the logoic plane and the monadic plane blank, or at least without subplane articulation, then why articulate the cosmic astral and cosmic mental plane? It's just far beyond us. But maybe the important thing to know, or to keep in mind, is that the cosmic causal bodies of these cosmic beings are found on the cosmic mental plane. And I think I've mentioned this before, but it might slip the mind. The causal body of our planetary logos, like all non-sacred planetary logoi, is located on the third sub-level from above of the cosmic mental plane. I infer via analogy that the sacred planets have their cosmic causal body on the second subplane of the cosmic mental plane, and he definitely tells us that there is a causal body for our solar logos found on the first subplane of the cosmic mental plane. And the analogy kind of breaks down because for man, there's no causal body which is entirely on the first subplane of the mental plane down here. But for the great solar logos, there is. And like I've explained before, sometimes you can get more out of studying the solar logos in comparison with man than you can by trying to study the planetary logos in comparison with man. Somehow that subject is more blinded, if you will. So anyway, from the cosmic mental plane comes this mental fire, which we call solar fire. Now, thinking analogically, a solar angel was a human being in the previous major solar system, and now functions in its angelic mode, helping our present humanity. Now, let's make an analogy uh, regarding the source of cosmic mental fire. It's composed of many, many, many solar angels, and it is a being who would be analogically in advance of our solar logos. Whoever plays the role of solar angel to a developing entity is in advance of that developing entity. So now we have our solar logos developing, and maybe this being was in a previous system, who knows what, a solar logos, when our solar logos was not a solar logos. See, I mean, in other words, on the path of the solar logo, you don't just jump there, you are something else first. So the great solar angel of the solar logos is a very advanced being, more advanced than our solar logos, and is the source of what we call cosmic mental fire. And out of it, like so many streams of emanation, come these billions and billions of solar angels of the kind that we are used to discussing, even though we don't know very much about what we're discussing. You know, lots of wonderful names for solar angels. Sometime I'll go over them. I've collected, you know, those names, and I think we all be surprised at how many names there are for these divine Manasaputras. So anyway, solar fire or cosmic mental fire, this is that portion of the cosmic mental plane which goes to the animation of the mental body of the logos. Now, what is the analogy? The analogy is this, that our particular solar angel planted the spark of mind around the mental unit of animal man. The mental unit had been growing up with the increasing intelligence of animal man. And so our solar angel invested itself in the mental body of the nascent human being, just entering the fourth kingdom of nature. Well, the same thing is going on the high levels. You know, with a little bit of caution, I think we are always free to use the law of analogy or the more specific law of correspondences when trying to interpret the structure, the dynamics, the kind of physiology of the higher planes by looking at our lower planes and vice versa. So anyway, this great solar angel must be, in a way, implanting a spark of mind on the cosmic mental plane to animate the mental body of our solar logos. Now, about our solar logos, it has only taken the second cosmic initiation, which means it's not as far as Sirius is far, meaning that it has some degree of control over its cosmic astral body, though not complete, and as far as being a cosmic mental being and a sacred solar logos, it is not. So the solar angel of the solar logos is helping our non-sacred solar logos with that problem, to become sacred solar logos like Sirius is. You know, we went over this in one of the classes just recently, but you know, Betelgeuse is immense, and Antares, though immense, is less immense. And basically, we have a whole hierarchy of development among solar logoi. Now, as far as we are concerned, all evil has disappeared within the sunshine of the greater sun, which is Sirius. Now, that has not happened yet for our solar logos, and he's still wrestling, and his next step is to become cosmically, mentally polarized. Now, and analogically, when will that happen? Well, if we take mankind as the example, which we oftentimes can when trying to find out something about a solar logos, when does man become mentally polarized? I don't just mean mental focus or having a good mind or anything like that. I'm talking about the mind really held steady in the light of the soul. And that mental polarization occurs midway between the second and third initiation. Okay. Now, if that is the case, and we can say we're mentally focused, we human beings, before that time, but we can't say we're mentally polarized, then maybe there's an analogy. Our solar logos has taken a second cosmic initiation, but not yet a third cosmic initiation. So maybe it is in the place of the Christ working through the initiate Jesus after the baptism, and is going off into the desert to meet the threefold temptations of the devil. But who knows what the devil is, when it comes to those high beings. Basically, it is the personality. So I think our solar logos is fighting it out through a kind of fourth subsidiary initiation midway between his second cosmic initiation and the third cosmic initiation, which will make him more like Sirius and will produce in the midway point real mental polarization. But that's not happening yet. We live in a solar system which is astral Buddhic, and it has a majority of the lives are Devic lives. 140 billion units are Devic units, and I do believe they are the kinds that are self-conscious, and 60 billion units are human units. So 140 and 60. So we live in a very Devic solar system run by a solar logos who is not yet mentally polarized, and hence the power of the astral plane, an undivided plane over all human beings, the power of the astral over all human beings. Okay, so, I'm just making analogies here about how the solar logos might animate the mind, or rather the solar angel of the solar logos might animate the mind of the solar logos and help with this process of becoming mentally polarized and transfigured. What do we say? We don't really have an initiate solar logos. We have a solar logos which is going through the preliminary initiations of the threshold and not the real initiations. So, a certain degree of sacredness comes into the human being when the human being is transfigured, glorified before the three, bowing disciples. And I think the same will be the case with our solar logos, before whoever it is that's bowing down, maybe three semi-cosmic logoi bow before the solar logos at the transfiguration. It hasn't happened yet. As a matter of fact, it's on its way. but we don't know how many, even trillions of years it will take. Now, the greater part of this book, Cosmic Fire, is all about cosmic mental fire, the neutral electricity, the result of cosmic father and cosmic mother breaking forth as the light and love of the cosmic sun, as it were. So this fire may be regarded as the sum total of the sparks of mind, the fires of the mental bodies, and the animating principle of the evolving units of the human race in the three worlds. The way I look at this is that emanating from this great solar angel are all these lesser solar angels, which in this second major solar system take up residence within those animal men or those journeyers from the moon chain or from the previous solar system. They take up residence within the mind through the implantation of the spark of mind, but they all come from a great solar angel that is supervising the development of our solar logos. So the sum total of the sparks of mind, we hear about it all the time. The solar angel implants the spark of mind in animal man, which is its own vivifying presence. And, maybe along the way, it passes through what's called the angel of the presence, which I think is a reduction of the full nature of the solar angel. So from the solar angel to the angel of the presence to the spark of mind, which is implanted on the lower mental plane, near the mental unit. Now, how that all works physiologically, I couldn't say, but I think that's how it works. The sum total of the sparks of mind, and we have people like you and I, there are people on the planet who don't yet, okay, and they'll have to wait till the next round, but we have the spark of mind implanted within us, which is a direct connection with the angel of the presence and thence with the solar angel. The fires of the mental body, the higher fires, and the animating, now notice that the word anima means soul. So that is the translation there. And the animating principle, or the soul principle, implanted in the mind of man, of the evolving units of the human race in the three worlds. And what Madame Blavatsky said is we're like hothouse plants, specially cultivated. We didn't have to go through all those steps ourselves. We had help from a previous type of humanity coming from the previous solar system. Okay. So different things are written down here, and the solar angels have come forth from the great solar angel on the cosmic mental plane, and they are part of the matter aspect of our solar logos. Interestingly enough, they invest themselves in the dense material body of our solar logos. The solar angel, in a way, is Christ in you, the hope of glory. And when we become glorified at the transfiguration, which means we shine with maximum light given our present initiatory limitations, it is the angelic presence within us which is inducing the shining. Well, anyway, I think I probably went over a lot of these things in a different way without reading my earlier commentary. The sparks of mind are deriving essentially from the cosmic mental plane, just the way our solar angel derives from the great solar angel on the cosmic mental plane. Kind of makes you wonder, you know, the Buddha, when he took his sixth initiation and defeated the hosts of Mara or illusion, he touched the cosmic mental plane. Now, do we think he touched only the lower levels of the cosmic mental plane, or did he somehow touch the place where the causal body of our planetary logos is found, which would be the higher three levels of the cosmic mental plane? So solar angels, whether ours or, well, our solar angels, they are no strangers to the cosmic mental plane, because that's really where they originated from. And they and then they are breathed forth out of what's called the heart of the sun. The heart of the sun is another way of saying the causal body of the solar logos. So it's found, as I said, upon the highest levels of the cosmic mental plane. So the fire which is animating our solar angels can be considered to be cosmic mental fire, which is just what we're talking about in this little section. And they are sharing a fragment of themselves with unself-conscious man. Now, remember the old saying, having pervaded the entire universe, with a fragment of myself, I remain. That's how the spark of mind works. It's just a fragment of the greater being who pervades the lower universe of man with a fragment of itself, and thus stimulates the development of mind and illumined mind. So actually, the fire within us that we call solar fire, and which we're all trying to cultivate when we work with the Tibetan, is very much coming from the cosmic mental plane. And when we follow the path of the Buddha, maybe we are following one who at his sixth initiation touched that cosmic mental plane and made this cosmic mental fire, you know, transformed and down and down and down, available to us. Okay. Right, the animating principle, it gives fire to animal man. We call it soul, which is at the very least self-consciousness. There's a lot of trouble with the word soul. What does it mean? You know, generally it's light, generally it's consciousness, but is it another being, or is it our consciousness on the higher mental plane, or is it a mixture of our consciousness and the consciousness of a higher being pervading our consciousness? Maybe that's what soul is. So we have to examine that, because depending upon the context that Master DK uses, so will be the meaning of the word soul. Okay, I used to think it was the bottom of your shoe when I was a 3-year-old, you know. I was interested in souls. Why is everybody talking about the soul, I thought? It's just the bottom of your shoe. But okay, I learned better. Now, DK goes on. Again, this is the solar angels complete their initial sacrifice by a final one, and offer themselves upon the fiery altar. Well, we have no idea what it feels like for a solar angel to have invested itself within the substance of man, and then to be part of a great conflagration which burns up all that they have created or what they have become in manifestation on the higher mental plane. The burning of the causal body, in other words. And interesting, like I said, if you really want some interesting reading, go to Letters on Occult Meditation, maybe around page 15, 16, 17, 18, right in there, and you'll see the different ways of destroying the causal body. And one of them is a very fiery method of destruction. And believe it or not, that is the sixth ray method, which consumes the causal body of man in a great fire, a great conflagration. There are many ways to destroy a causal body, but maybe all of them have elements of fire in them. The solar angel helps us develop, learns thereby, lifts us more rapidly, and then has to endure a kind of initiation, which means offering themselves upon the fiery altar. And that's what the fourth initiation is all about, with the return of God, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Return of that aspect of God to the heart of the Son, or maybe some of them to the central spiritual Son. I don't know that I could trace that, but it seems to be one of the ways of return when they are liberated on the fiery altar. Now, 80%, 85%, what's called the bulk of humanity, is going to do something like that for the mankind of probably the next solar system, or maybe they're training on Sirius. How long does it last? I don't know, but maybe they'll come back to this solar system and offer themselves for a new crop of animal man having become man. Anyway, the fiery experience will be even more fiery for those human beings who offer themselves to supervise and sacrifice on behalf of the uplift of the humanity of the period. The causal body is completely destroyed. Of course, it's like a supernova. There's a lot of debris hanging in the air, whatever air is, higher planes, and it has to be, it has to be dissipated before you can really take the fifth initiation. Because the fifth initiation is based upon clarity of vision, and it's called the revelation. Well, with all of that causal debris hanging around after the destruction of the causal body, you're not going to see as clearly as you should to take the fifth degree. Interestingly enough, the fifth ray will be involved, and the sign Leo will be involved, the fifth sign. And the number 5 has to do with vision, clarity of vision. You really focus and you really see. So we have to develop a kind of a higher vision in order to take the fifth initiation. And again, that's 5 planes from the bottom, confirming on the atmic plane this particular initiation. Sometimes it's said that that initiation is taken on the Buddhic plane, and sometimes the master is associated with the atmic plane. Anyway, the number 5 is involved. The 4 lower groups of solar Petries return to the heart of the subjective sun. Now, we went over this before. Sometimes subjective sun might mean a reflection of the cosmic causal body of our sun or planetary logos on the cosmic astral plane. But sometimes the subjective sun means the heart of the sun, okay, found on the higher levels of the cosmic mental plane. I went over with you, I think I did, that there are different references, most of which conflate as equivalent the heart of the sun and the subjective sun. But there is one reference where they seem to be different and distinct. The four lower groups of solar Treatise, see, it's a hierarchy, isn't it? You know, it's going to be just like man. It's going to have 7 different divisions. And probably there are initiations of solar Treatise, of solar angels. And there are great solar angels which have taken the highest possible initiations within that range of initiation. And there are those that are just beginning, you know. They're just like entering the 5th creative hierarchy, and they have to work their way up to the possibility of initiation. So anyway, the 4 lower groups, whatever they are, and remember, turn to page 844 of Cosmic Fire to see that listing of hierarchical listing of different types of beings, including, I suppose, these. So they, the heart of the sun, or to that inmost center of the system from whence they came. Whilst the 3 higher groups, you know, it's either going to be 3 above 4 or 4 above 3. When it comes to hierarchies, it's pretty much 3 above 4. But when it comes to planes, it's pretty much 4 above 3. You know what I mean? Just, you know, you just look at this diagram, and you'll see that the 4 cosmic ethers are above the 3 levels of density. And you can take that right up the scale. The 4 super cosmic etheric planes are above the 3 levels, which are simply cosmic planes. You know, they have to do with the dense physical body of a cosmic logos or a super cosmic logos or a one about whom naught may be said, or something even greater. When you're dealing with planes, 4 superior over 3 inferior. When you're dealing with hierarchies of beings, then it's pretty much the triangle above the square, the 3 above the 4. All of this is, you know, cosmology that he is giving us, and it is occult cosmology, which is, you know, obviously it's not going to be the astrophysics and of the contemporary scientist who is confined to the dense physical levels of our solar system, and maybe a little bit penetrating into the lowest 2 of the systemic ethers, not the cosmic ethers, just the systemic ethers. So we have a long way to go. So the higher 3 groups are carried by the force and energy generated in the fiery furnace and blaze. See, it's like a propellant, isn't it? And through the stimulation produced by the blazing forth of the central jewel, when the causal body is destroyed, the central jewel has a great power, and it blazes forth straight to the central spiritual sun. Now, the central spiritual sun is always the monad. Our central spiritual sun is our monad on the monadic plane, which is on the second cosmic ether. The central spiritual sun of our planetary logos is found on the cosmic monadic plane, probably on a lower subplane than the central spiritual sun of our solar logos, which is also found on the cosmic monadic plane, but on a higher sublevel than the monad of the planetary logos. In other words, the same way with causal bodies. The causal body of our Earth is found on the third sublevel. The causal body of our solar logos is found on the first sublevel. So there's a distinction, and it's probably the same with monads, where the monads are these great beings. Now, look, there's no such thing as different monads, ultimately. It's all one being, ultimately. But for practical purposes and in time and space and under the influence of Maya, we even differentiate the scope of various types of monads. So the higher three, through all of this fire, go straight to the central spiritual sun of our solar logos. Because basically, from Sirius to our solar logos, to Venus, to the Venus chain of our Earth scheme, and from the Venus chain of our Earth scheme to the Earth chain of our Earth scheme, and from the sixth or the second globe of the Venus chain to the second and fourth globe of the Earth chain. This is kind of how the Sirian influence and the solar angelic influence descends. And basically, we consider them as coming from Sirius, but then going straight to the solar logos in either its heart nature or its occult head nature, either its soul nature or its monadic nature. And who's to say which? DK basically says higher three, monad, lower four, heart of the sun, or soul nature. So straight to the central spiritual sun, there to abide until another kalpa calls them forth to sacrifice themselves, this time as planetary logoi. Now, isn't that interesting? Because they're being retained by the solar logos, and they come forth at the right time. Now, what is a kalpa in this case? Will it be an entire new solar system, or will it be a division of our present solar system? Could be an entirely new solar system, which is really a Mahakalpa, but sometimes he abbreviates, and they come forth and they become planetary logoi. But they don't become planetary logoi all by themselves. They become planetary logoi in groups. Groups of solar angels come forth, affiliate, work together, and together become a planetary logos. And he does explain that don't think that it's just one solar angel and a planetary logos. It's a group of solar angels that become the planetary logos. So let's see what we've got so far. We've been talking about the mystery of solar fire or cosmic mental fire. You've seen how it comes from the cosmic mental plane. You understand that our little solar angels, as mighty as they are simply emanations, or like sparks coming from the much greater solar angel, which sees to the cosmic nurturing of our solar logos. We understand that our solar logos is undergoing cosmic mental development so that it can become a cosmic initiate of the third degree, become transfigured. And it's not there yet, but the great solar angel that is its solar angel will help it do so. And meanwhile, we go through a parallel process way down on our own level. We understand that when it comes to solar Petries or solar angels, solar Petri, solar angels, it's pretty much the same. It means fathers. The word Petri means father. That there are 4 lower groups and 3 higher groups. That the lower groups return to the heart of the sun at man's 4th initiation, a kind of liberation and initiation for them in their series of initiations. We don't know what initiation it stands for, but it is really like an initiation. And the 3 higher groups go straight to the central spiritual sun, and we understand that the central spiritual sun is always another name for monad. Okay, and then they come forth when the time is right and the cycle is upon them in groups, maybe of 49, to become planetary logoi. Now, there's different. I won't get into the intricacy of whether the planetary logoic structure descends from above or is made from below, or some combination of both. Let's just say that one of the paths that a solar angel can take is to become a planetary logos. Now, this is interesting because we human beings also, when we are Cho-hands, have the choice of taking the third path, the path of the planetary logoi. But see, what is suggested is that first we go to Sirius on the 4th path and become solar angels. And then, coming forth as solar angels on a redemptive mission, we are brought into our solar logos and can reemerge on the path of planetary logoi. So, in other words, from 4 to 3 is how it goes. It's not like you have to take these paths on the way of higher evolution in some sequential manner. For instance, the Christ is preparing to follow the ray path. He will become a great ray of love. But, as DK says, wherever else his adventure or his development may take him, i.e. the ray path, he will eventually return as an initiate of some degree. He's already a transfigured initiate to the star Sirius. So there we have 5 going into 4. So it's not necessarily a development in a particular order. And then what I suspect is that from path number 3 of the planetary logoi, you can take the path of the solar logoi, path number 6. See, sometimes we say, well, I'm taking path 6, I'm going to develop as the solar logos. But along the way, we meet our fellow monads and amalgamate with them so that the whole thing becomes a group phenomena. And as we become these greater beings, we become the greater beings in groups. Now, I don't even know if we know what that really means. In one way, how I've called it, I said, look, I'm as much you as I am me. It's a funny thing to say, but when you're entering the participation with 48 other solar angels, you begin to realize that they are not different in group consciousness from what you are. You are them and they are you. And then together you create a planetary logos. And who knows, it may be that there's a group phenomenon going on between planetary logoi. Maybe one at a time they become solar logoi, or maybe they begin to merge together. And after the merging, which DK deals with, then that merged assembly of planetary logoi become a solar logos. Now, obviously, that's way beyond anything that we can confirm. It's just some speculative thought, because he does talk about how the different planets start to merge with each other during a synthetic period. Now, maybe last of the planets to merge with each other would be Neptune and Uranus, and they become one, and then they merge within the sun. I've developed a lot of that kind of thought in these commentaries, and I've suggested what might be merging with what. Now, it may be that the Earth and Venus are destined to merge, maybe after the Earth and Mars have merged. So we're getting out of the many, the few, and out of the few, finally, the couple, and out of the couple, the one. And then we merge into the solar logos. So who's to say how that takes place, but definitely I think so many of us are on our way into the solar logos one way or another. Okay, now we're probably getting to the point where we can't go too much further. It's just that all of these statements expand, like seeds expand. And there are so many implications in what DK writes, just hidden things that you might, if you're not reading carefully, you might just, read right over it and never even notice it. So I think the blue that I've written here, I've covered those ideas. And then it says here something that I've also covered: the causal body of a heavenly man, and especially a non-sacred heavenly man, in my opinion, is upon the third subplane of the cosmic mental plane, while that of the solar logos and those of the three persons of the logoic trinity are upon the first subplane. Now, if I can find that logoic trinity, it will be of interest. And let's see if I can, it would be this one. Here are those three persons of the logoic trinity, just the way there are three Buddhas of activity working with Sanat Kumara, like the three persons of a lesser trinity. However, if the law of analogy holds, there are also three esoteric Buddhas of activity. Well, they don't call them that. They call them Kumaras. Three esoteric Kumaras. So just like when you put 7 pennies down on a table, 6 of them surround a central one. So there are 3 Buddhas of activity and 3 esoteric Kumaras, and they kind of rotate. We don't know the laws of their rotation, but they do occupy different positions. And if that is so, then the 3 persons of the solar logoic trinity may also have the analogy to the 3 esoteric Kumaras, which are not pictured, okay? And we'll have again the 6 and the 1. So let's just say that analogy inclines us to think of that possibility, that instead of 3 in 1, there are really 6 in 1, with 3 of them very esoteric and invisible. And that would, well, eventually that would make 7 sacred planets when the Earth becomes that, and or 7 solar logoi, or beings of the equivalence of a solar logos. Now here's another analogy. Just as Sanat Kumara is at this time ahead of the Buddhas of activity, and probably ahead of the esoteric Kumaras too, so the solar logos is the analog to Sanat Kumara and is ahead in its development of the three persons of the Trinity, and maybe the 3 invisible correspondences to the esoteric Kumaras. Now, DK can't put everything in his maps. He just can't do it. Our ability to diagram just isn't there, and then maybe he doesn't think it's germane enough for us to be considering, in as much as the masters themselves would consider it a very esoteric subject. So the causal body upon the third, and this is taken from a little later in the book, and that's a planetary causal body, and the causal body of the solar locus upon the first, and which leads me by analogy to think, as I told you before, that the sacred planets have a causal body on the second. And I think, triangles, squares, circles, all those interlocking etheric patterns, depending upon how highly developed that being is. Okay. Yes, I said animation is an important word. It means vitalization due to soul influence. I discussed that. And we're talking, when he just uses the word logos, watch out, it usually means solar logos. If he specifies planetary logos, then it is the planetary logos, but the word logos is usually the first great macrocosm. And by that shortened form, he means the solar logos. Now, let's see, I don't know how much farther this goes, and I'm hoping not too much farther. But of course, it doesn't go too much farther. And I think the wise thing to do is put off the discussion about electric fire and the logoic flame divine until the next time, which would be then the 10th. And it would be in the morning. So let's see if there's anything else here in the blue. I think I've covered all of that. It just may be a little more coherent in the writing than in the speech. The spark of mind, which makes us that spiritual hothouse plant that Madame Blavatsky talked about, is essentially solar fire. And they operate in the realm of fire by friction, which is latent fire and radiatory fire. They operate within the personality, and they animate with soul energy the area ruled by fire by friction, this being an important point. Yeah, so the spark of mind represents the ensouling of the concrete mental body, which is simply a vehicle expressive of instinct and responding to desire before that ensouling really begins to develop. So eventually you have the soul-infused personality, the spark of mind develops fully, and the personality becomes a sub-ray of the ray of the soul, and at a certain point, the angel of the presence, solar angel, disappears in a fiery blaze and returns either to the heart of the sun or to the central spiritual sun. When you look up at the sun, do you think, well, I'm just, looking here at kind of an etheric representation of a great being, not even material. Maybe, some of the people that know more about the fifth ray research, can get into the idea of plasma and maybe ether, but you're not looking at the heart of the sun, no. And you're not looking at the central spiritual sun, and yet bear that in mind, because like all beings, they are triple, and there's a soul aspect and a monadic aspect. Okay. So, obviously, we're just expanding on the subject here. And let's just say that one paragraph can lead in many directions and take in many associated thoughts within the great science of relations. Okay, so this will be the end of a treatise on cosmic fire in depth, which would be program 20/16. Work that out with Michael ahead of time. and this is the 3rd of July. Big day tomorrow, decisive, I think. And basically, we're still on page 38, as far as I know. Aren't we? Are we not?
Yes, we are still on page 38.
Well, now that's progress, let me tell you.
The first 2 paragraphs of page 38.
Okay, well, and it makes the snail look like Secretariat, the greatest of the race horses. Okay, so now the next time we do 21/17, and it will be just after the full moon things, and this will be the 10th of July, and we'll go on from here into electric fire. Now, these are the foundations. Fire by friction, 3rd aspect, solar fire, 2nd aspect, and electric fire, 1st aspect. Are any of these fires being itself? Yes and no. They all came out of the substratum, being, but being is infinitely more than any particular aspect of divinity. You can't say that will is being, although it's very close to it. You can't say that love is being. You cannot say that intelligence is being, and yet they all are rooted in being, which is aspectless. Just like it's pointless, maybe pointless to discuss, but it's aspectless, indivisible, and pointless. All right, now it's your turn. We've been dealing with solar fire, and maybe you've made a note or two about anything that you might like to discuss or ask. And basically occultism is one big study, one big book, one big subject. So you can go from any place to any place else, and it doesn't have to necessarily be on our subject if you have a question or a statement. Is there anybody that has such a question or a statement? Remember that in less than an hour, we're going to begin with the sacred pentagram work, which is going to be a broadcast on the YouTube channel. So we're not going to go on too long right now, and we'll close with the great invocation. Any questions or thoughts? Let's see here. Share, pause. Okay. I mean, you're into a book now, which is beyond us. Let's just admit it. It's beyond us, but even though we may not possess what DK calls the initiate consciousness, which is required to interpret this book, we possess something. So, yeah, Lori has something there, Michael, does she?
Lori's hand was raised and she can unmute herself.
Right.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering, Michael, using the law of correspondences or analogy, could we say that Christ is a disciple of Sanat Kumara, our planetary logos, who likewise is a disciple of the solar logos, who
Yes.
is likewise a disciple of the star sun Sirius, and then I suppose on it goes.
On it
Is
goes.
that fair?
That's fair enough, absolutely. And actually, he does say that Sanat Kumara, or maybe we should even call him in this case, the planetary logos, is a direct disciple of the solar logos. And on it goes. And Sirius is the great teacher of our solar logos. And when it comes to Sirius, you begin to wonder about some of these cosmic logoi, which have constellations as their vehicle. And Sirius would be a disciple of one of those great beings. Is it the logos of the little bear? Is it the logos of Orion? It's something along that line, and I would investigate the, there's a great logos of the 7 stars of the Great Bear. And I don't know if that includes the whole Great Bear, but certainly those 7 have some kind of informing life. And the same is true of the little bear, for which Sirius is a blind, interestingly enough. The only one place that I've been able to find, he mentions the usual Great Bear Sirius Pleiades triangle as Great Bear Little Bear Pleiades. And he says it's a very powerful triangle. He just doesn't say much, but the Little Bear and Sirius both have a strong connection, and maybe it could be a kind of Ajna center connection in a cosmic sense. So yes, you're in terms of intelligent speculation, I think you're allowed to take the path that you were suggesting. Of course, it's going to end somewhere against the wall because we're only given so much information, and beyond a certain point of this thing called the unknown, on page 293 there of Cosmic Fire, we don't know where to go. We don't even know what is a cosmic parabron. I mean, we, in a way, according to my analysis of this, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I find that the little triangles here are in the categories of what's called supercosmic logoi, or ones about whom naught may be said, and they contain constellations for their chakras. So then what is the circle that is containing the 7 little triangles? And then what is the triangle above that is containing the 7 big circles? See, I don't know if we even know where to go with that in terms of visible structures that we can identify in the heavens. And that's just the beginning. So I would say take the law of analogy, well, as an exercise for fun. We can try to take it as far as we can take it, but in terms of what's practical, we pretty well end with the solar logos, then with the 7 solar systems, of which ours is one, and then with the one about whom naught may be said, our local one about whom naught may be said, and we just can't go any further with any kind of, reliability. There's one place where DK seems to say the masters know the names of the galaxies, their symbolism, and their quality. And it's on page 1084, or right in there, 1084, 85, 86 of Cosmic Fire. That's as close as we get to the mention of a galaxy. He does mention it in Cosmic Fire, but he means more an asterism. Like an asterism is a collection of stars. So when he says galaxies of stars, he doesn't mean that island universe. He just means a collection of stars, like a constellation in the zodiac. That would be a galaxy of stars in the language he was using at that time. Anyway, give your mind a workout that way. But from a practical point of view, what the solar logos is doing and the signs through which it is working, maybe that is practical, astrologically and rheologically. Beyond that, it's just interesting speculation and working with the law of correspondences to see if you get that sense of things gelling. And then you say, well, this feels like it's true. And then we have to stop there because we just don't know. Our masters are still on the cosmic physical plane. So how much further, can we go except with rational speculation? Have fun with that law. Okay.
Okay,
Anything
Michael. Chris writes, talk more about all this sacrifice.
To make sacred, right? So the very first law of the soul is what? Of course, it's obvious the way I'm asking it. It's the law of sacrifice, which means having such a sense of values that the lesser is habitually sacrificed for the emergence of the greater. Now, usually we just function just the opposite. We kind of hang on to what is of lesser value and we let what is of greater value pass aside. We have to learn to relinquish, renounce our attachment to things that we hold near and dear when we recognize a higher point of tension which we should be adhering to. We release our fixation upon a lower point of tension, and that's called sacrifice. It may be addiction to, what the mind is doing, or addiction to the feelings, or even to certain physical activities. We let go of those things and start to live in relation to a higher point of tension, which is revelatory of new experiences. So as Master Moria said, and I've quoted often, when have you ever become less through sacrifice? Which is another way of saying, when have you ever become less by relinquishing your attachment to lesser things and going with the greater things? So it's the very first law of the soul, and it goes with the mantra that we might look at this way: to those who give all, i.e. sacrifice, all is given. And DK sometimes talks about, well, the money problem is a big one. So, we have to learn the right attitude towards money and towards expenditure. And so many disciples find themselves unable to give and all of that, he says. But even on that low level, when we learn how to direct money away from our customary attachments into something higher, we are sacrificing, we are making sacred, and we are expanding our consciousness and our capability and entering more and more subtle worlds. Well, it's one thing to talk about these things theoretically, and it's another thing to give up age-old attachments. And I think in Raise and the Initiations, there's this thing that I've often quoted. It shows you how to achieve freedom through renunciation. And it goes through every one of the 9 initiations, and the particular type of freedom which comes to you when you renounce attachment through sacrifice with lower points of tension and with the lower attachments. We can be in a way attached to the higher things, and probably some of the non-compromising Buddhists would come along and say, well, you can't even do that. You can't. Attachment itself is the problem. So when we renounce, which is an act of sacrifice, we are preparing for what's called the Great Renunciation, which is the 4th initiation, which is the great liberating initiation, and which takes us out of the dense physical body of the Solar Logos and into the cosmic etheric body of the Solar Logos, where we can actually begin to live a new type of life instead of being kind of buried by the old energies. So, in short, sacrifice is good as long as it's intelligent and really part of the plan. You can make anything into a glamour if you want. You can just, look at all I've sacrificed for you kind of thing, and that would not be the right use of sacrifice. You would be expecting a payback. The real sacrifice expects no payback, but it inevitably comes anyway.
Michael,
Yeah.
how about the sacrifices on the higher levels, like the angels, etc.?
Yes, that is they are giving up a higher point of tension to relieve those who are still slaves to a lower point of tension. So again, they're giving up a kind of achievement out of love in order to rescue the other parts of themselves. So you're quite right to bring that up, from the higher point of view. Sanat Kumara is the great sacrifice. Let's say we call him the great sacrifice. And he stands at his post, symbolically speaking, until the last weary pilgrim has found his way home. So there is sacrifice from above and sacrifice to ascend, exercise from below. And in each case, one is giving up a particular type of preference in order to achieve something still more spiritual. Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's this wonderful thing it's in esoteric psychology too, where the planetary logos wants to build a planet. And so the great presiding one, probably the solar logos, gives him permission to build the planet. But the problem is, he builds the planet and then he doesn't like what he sees, because it's really demanding from him sacrifice. And he sought scope to express this and scope to express that, and instead he is weighed down by this onerous downward drag. And he asks permission to leave what he built. And the Solar Logos basically looks the other way and pretends he doesn't hear. It's all very symbolic, but it's a wonderful section from the old commentary, and it tells us how the psychology of the divine rebel came to our planet, because he liked it not, and thence the pain, as a result, then came the pain. So, as a matter of fact, if I were to, I don't know, if I make a quick find here, it's wonderful. He liked it not. And then the word pain. Yeah, there it is. Oh, golly. Let's see. Okay. And yeah, here it is. It's in Esoteric Psychology, page 98.
Would you like to share your screen?
Why not? And here it is. But, read this, and I'm not going to read the whole thing right now because we've got to get ready for the sacred pentagram. But anyway, this planetary logos wanted to show his love and show his power, and he complains, light there is none, peace is not found, let me return. But he who sat upon the throne turned not his head. He seemed not e'en to listen nor to hear, but from the lower sphere of darkness and of pain, a voice came forth and cried, quote, we suffer here, we seek the light, we need the glory of an entering God. And he says, DK says, I can't find any other way to express the ancient symbol. Lift us to heaven. Enter, O Lord, speaking to the planetary logos, enter, O Lord, the tomb. Raise us into the light and make the sacrifice. Break down for us the prison wall and enter into pain. The Lord of life returned. That's our planetary logos. He liked it not, and hence the pain. So this is the psychology of the divine rebel who likes it not and is very, very confined. Well, by now I'm sure he's gotten used to it, but very, very confined to a normally stultifying situation, which is a lot heavier than he anticipated. So page 98, Esoteric Psychology, Volume 2. Okay. Well, look, friends, is there anything else? Because Tuya and I are running out of time. We have to start this broadcast of the Sacred Pentagram, and we have to switch computers and switch, platforms and all of that. So what do we have?
No other hands raised and nothing else written in the chat box. It seems like a good time to go ahead and sound the great invocation so that you can make the change for the broadcast.
Right, exactly. Thank you. Okay, so let's see if do you see the great invocation now?
Yes, it's there.
Okay, so let's do that all together, and I want to thank you all for attending, and we'll be doing the Sacred Pentagram in just a half hour on the usual YouTube broadcasting link, which we use for all broadcasts, not for webinars, but for all broadcasts. Okay. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, Let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thanks, everybody. So, sacred pentagram. And then tomorrow morning, as far as I know, Destiny of the Nations, you know, the soul of nations, maybe some readings from Destiny of the Nations. We've been reading the United States. We're not through it at all yet, and we'll take some of the major countries. And then in the evening, we have the pre-full moon for Cancer, and then we have, after that, on the 5th, early morning, is it, Michael? Or at least early morning for us, maybe. What time GMT?
The full moon meditation broadcast begins at 3 a.m. GMT on Sunday the 5th.
Okay, good. All right, so that will be the work for the full moon in Cancer also at the broadcast link. So thank you for attending, and lots to think about. And slowly, as long as we don't rush ourselves excessively, we will gather the details of the big picture with some degree of meticulous entirety, not like DK has, but some degree of it. So see some of you anyway in just a little less than a half hour on the broadcast, and thank you. We'll be talking to you. Okay? Bye for now.